Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, what's up, my Zooming brother?
I know, I'm so digital, you know?
I know, totally. Hey, that's what, you know what, though? I mean, technology's cool because, it just helps you hit any curveball. Technology can help. And it can also hurt. If you're relying on technology and it doesn't work, there's not too many plan Bs out there. But we have plan B in motion this morning. Mikey's in the virtual Zoom coffee shop. I love it.
I'm like levitating. I'm levitating in my little
but
square
folks can't see you levitating.
I know, but I can see myself levitating.
I know, you're doing a good job. I totally get it.
It's all about me, Glenn. Don't forget.
Totally get it. So how was your sober week, man? I continue to find that I can get through anything sober. For years, I never thought I could get through anything in life without having a drink. And now I'm continue to prove I can get through anything sober. So good to be here, man.
It's good to be here too. Did you get through a lot this week?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a normal week. Got a lot of plates in the air. Got a lot of people I love serving. How about you?
You're a normal guy.
How about you?
I had a slightly abnormal week.
Why's that?
I went out to a social event last night, but I was like all by myself.
You never go social events. You went by yourself?
And I went by myself. Yeah.
God, you know what though? Sometimes that is so recharging. Just because it's good to spend time with yourself. That's good.
It was kind of bizarre, but I had a good time.
So what did you do?
We'll talk about that later. I went to a play.
You're a thespian now?
Hey, watch yourself.
I think that's what they call people that go to plays, right? Thespians?
I identify as a thespian. but I present as a sober coffee dude.
That's awesome. So tell me about the play, man. What happened?
Well, I'm going to in a minute, but we got a table for 3. Can I join somebody in?
Yeah, absolutely.
This sounded so crafted, and it really wasn't meant to be that way. You didn't even know I went to a play last night. Anyway, Eileen,
I did know you went to a play because you told me you were going to a play. And that's not normally what comes out of your mouth.
I know, right?
You normally got the
I
grandkids.
Never normally know what comes out of my mouth.
Normally serving the grandkids or your daughters or,
I know, I got stuff.
So I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Good morning, Eileen.
Good morning.
Hey, Eileen,
how are
welcome.
you? Hi.
Yeah, glad to have you here this morning. So you're part of the reason I was there. We were in the room together last night, and I don't even know if you knew we were in the room together last night, but you were busy working, and I went to a production, Glenn, that Eileen is the director of in downtown proper Chicago. And I had a fantastic time, watched a fantastic drama / comedy / I don't know what it was, but it sure was interesting. And so it was fun. But the whole reason I went is because, we had met on via social media, met Eileen. I think we must have stumbled upon our production, our little dime production here, and said, hey, you guys are doing something interesting. And she's doing something interesting with the art part of her life. And I thought it'd be really interesting to spend a few minutes talking about the opportunity, because, we all have that artsy, that creative side of us. And I just thought it'd be fun just to meet somebody share a little bit with somebody who's like putting it out there, really kind of putting sobriety out there. So
yeah, that's awesome. And first of all, Eileen, you must have been up late too. So you're up. It's just behind the counter. It's 6 a.m. here in Chicagoland. Yeah. Mikey and I always say, "Hey, we're from Chicago, right?" Because it beats saying we're from Illinois or something. But Eileen is actually from Chicago proper. So you're up early.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Well, first, Mike, I'm so glad you got to see the show. But yes, the schedule of our show is that we're still working it. We're still, it's still in process. So yes, I was up very late, finishing a lot of things and having meetings and things like that. But happy to be here this morning.
That's great. So what's the name of your show and what's it about? And kind of give us an overview.
So it's called Household Spirits. It is a new play. It's a world premiere by Mia McCullough, and it's at Theater Wit, which is in Chicago. And it's such, and Mike, you could weigh in. It's a hard play to describe because it's about a lot of different things. There are a lot of different issues and events and things that it touches on. But I would say basically it's about a blended family celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas together while the ghost of part of the family's somebody's mother and wife, that ghost is kind of haunting the holidays, and for both positive and nefarious purposes. So we've got
basically you call that like drama and stuff, but Glenn calls that his normal Christmas.
Yeah, I'm trying to differentiate. I mean, are you doing a play about my Christmas last year? No, I mean certainly, when I think of ghosts, right? I mean that's one of the things that we talk about on the show a lot, in this podcast is, how we deal with our ghosts from the past, and certainly with holidays, ghosts tend to come up. So I'm just kind of wondering where the line is between your play and reality.
I mean, we've talked a lot about how like it's a play really based in the real world, except for the fact that there is a ghost on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the characters, the husband of the ghost, is in his first 30 days of recovery,
mm-hmm.
And is dealing with that. And so the idea of the past, of reckoning with your decisions, of everything kind of coming to a head, is really present for that character. But yeah, there's so much about the play. There's themes of, generational trauma, mental illness, suicide.
Wow, it's really loaded.
I know, alcoholism, and I would say too, it is a drama, but it is very much also, it is a comedy as well.
Yeah,
so
I'm trying to find the comedy part.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you, Glenn. It was like I said at the end. I found myself laughing at parts. I was clearly uncomfortable, but yet then they just zipped me with a little zapper, and I'm like, oh. Okay, that was funny right there. I mean, it was good stuff. And what I want to unpack is the role of the alcoholic. It was not just that he was struggling with his own alcoholism, and as Eileen mentioned, was in his first 30 days, but he was working the program. I mean, he knew the lines. He, the references were there. He said, keep coming back, and the coins, and getting the chip, and
so he used a lot of lines from the program.
Oh yeah.
So that was evident.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, yeah, this dude's really in the program, because he's talking the language, and he's trying to do his 90 and 90. He's trying to figure it all out, and the real part, and I don't want to spend the whole time on the play because it was fantastic, and we're going to tell people how to go see it. But the really fantastic thing is that everyone around him, no one could believe like that he was really that alcoholic, right? They're like, you're not the alcoholic. It just so morphed or mirrored my life. I'm like, people around me go, really? You had a drinking problem? I'm like, seriously, dude? Did you have a visual problem? Did you have a hearing problem? Because how can you not see that in me, So I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah, so kind of a quick comparison. I have a couple quick thoughts. One is the first 30 days. I know for me, and I work with a lot of folks. There's a lot of talking in the first 30 days, and a lot of regurgitation of what they hear in meetings and sayings and things. But eventually, and I'm not sure where. I guess it's different for everybody, but it changes from talking to living. And I think, Mikey, when I always think of you when I think of this is, when you came in, you took a lot of notes, right? For you, it was at least it started to be a textbook, right? It started to be let me get reference materials down, let me make notes, let me a brain thing. And somewhere for you, you don't bring a notebook to meetings anymore.
No.
That I see, right? So I mean, at some point, it goes from the head to the heart, right? So
I'll slip in an index card occasionally.
That's
just
great.
In case.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked that people around you didn't recognize you had a problem. But Eileen, question: how did you stumble on this play? How did you get involved?
Yeah, well, so the playwright Mia McCullough is not necessarily a sober person, but has people in her life who have gone through the program, who have dealt with alcoholism, and so that comes from a real place. The language of people not believing and of the language of the program comes from people in her life. And it was important to her that there be at least one person on the team who had that lived experience themselves of being sober. And so, yeah, we sort of got hooked up together, and I know she was looking for a sober director, and I was like, well, that's me. And yeah, it's really been interesting to come at the play from the lens of being sober, and knowing that it is about a fictional character story. So and everyone's sobriety journey is so different. So while I can bring my own perspective and my own experience, it's also that this character's journey is not the same as mine. So it's been working with the actor and being, kind of trying to give some insight, but also saying like, yeah, this person is on a different path than I was. And than anyone else was. But yeah, it's been interesting processing my own sobriety through this piece. I just celebrated 10 years in September.
Hey,
So that
congratulations.
was,
That's awesome.
thank you. Thank you. It
First
was,
of all, you look young. When did you get sober? When you were 12?
15.
well, I'm so young. I'm so incredibly young. No, but I got sober when I was 26. So I did get sober relatively young.
Yeah.
And I also had a fair amount of disbelief in using the A word.
Right,
I
sure.
had
Sure.
somebody say to me, "You're not an alcoholic. You're just someone who should never, ever, 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 ever drink." And I was like, "Oh, but I feel like that that might be."
Shouldn't there be a word for that?
Yeah,
Right.
I think there might be a quicker way to say that.
Yeah, right, right. Well, I will say that in the playbill, you proudly make reference to your relationship with Bill W. And I found that to be a pretty bold move because just because it is. I mean, it'll probably end up in my obituary, which by what I don't have any control over that, right?
I do.
But yeah, but and because I think my wife will want people to know because she's very proud of my relationship with the program. And but you posted that out there. What else where else are you throwing yourself out there into the world to let people know that there's a solution?
Yeah. So like I said, I got sober at 26, and it took me a couple of years um to integrate sobriety into my creative work. But I studied theater at school, and been doing theater and performance for, a good long time now. And in about a few years before I was getting sober, just, the way life happened, I started to do less traditional theater and more solo performance. So whether it was a full length one woman show, storytelling, poetry, performance art, stand up, those kinds of things. And that was a sort of, it felt more natural to integrate my real life. If I'm doing stand up and talking about myself, if I'm, writing stories about my life, it was hard not to discuss the kind of the elephant in the room, which is the big change in my life was getting sober and being in recovery. And I found that to finally break through and just stop talking around it and to just say, as in, like when you go to meetings for the first time, to say, I am an alcoholic. Here are the lessons I learned from being an alcoholic. Here's a story about my alcoholism, was very freeing for me. And it was also, it just made my work more uh, vulnerable, and it made it more straightforward in a way. So I started doing that in the first few years of recovery. And I've done a lot of storytelling about that. And I, have a full length solo show. I've done a lot of kind of weird performance art about recovery, but
I couldn't imagine doing low like performance. I mean, like yesterday, sitting through, it was a multiple hour production. I'm like, the creative part of somebody's head that comes through all these storylines and does all this. I mean, trust me, I had multiple things going in my head when I was out there. But I would say that now that I'm sober, I have more of my life is a little more in one lane. I mean, I still know there's other lanes going on around me, but yeah, I was just curious as to how do you think the creative juice and the ability to kind of follow that path, right? Because I think we all have this creative in us, and you're certainly following the path to the breadwinning extreme. But I know we all have this path. Do you think it helps? I think it really helps my sobriety to have these outlets to really kind of be by myself, not in a solo production kind of thing, but solo producing my own output, creative output, if that makes any sense at all.
yeah. And one of the other things I do is that I'm a teacher of creative classes. So I teach theater, creative writing, all kinds of different things there. And I get a lot of folks who are taking classes kind of just for fun, that they're not necessarily career artists. And I get a lot of people who say, well, I'm taking creative writing for fun, but I don't really have any stories, or I'm not really a creative person. And I'll be like, well, what do you do creatively? And they're like, oh, nothing. And I kind of push, what do you do creatively? And they're like, oh, well, I knit, or I crochet, or I,
Well, there you go then.
like
Yeah.
paint with my kids, or I, for my job, I do this. And I'm like, no, everyone is creative in a way. But I do think there is something really important about being intentionally creative. Whether you're doing it for a career or as an outlet or just, as a human. I think that we sort of have this happening simultaneously, whereas one, in American society, we do not fund the arts properly, which is a whole other kind of conversation. So it is really difficult to make a living in the arts. But on the other hand, I feel like people think that if they that there's like a gatekeeping mentality of that you have to be good at art to do art, and you
So
do
I
not.
have that mentality.
Yeah, you
For
have that
sure.
mentality, or you have that. You have.
I'm just not creative. The only creative things I do is I create one-line social media posts, and I cut my grass in different like patterns. That's it.
Oh,
He's selling himself so short
I
right
am.
now because
I'm a left. I think it's called left brain, right? I'm a number and.
But you're a topiary artist, is what you are.
Oh, is that what I am? That's odd. So
I don't know what that is, but I like that.
So Mikey's a thespian and I'm a topiary artist. I love it. I'm writing that down.
And this is the thing too, right? Where people think, I mean, and I have trouble with this too. I'm not a very practiced visual artist, for example. So I can't really draw or paint or anything like that. And the reason I can't do that is because I wasn't good at it when I was, 10. And so I've always sort of told myself, well, I'm not very good at visual art, art you make with your hands. And so then I don't practice it. And because I don't practice it, I don't feel confident in it. And some of the people I teach are children, and we will do arts and crafts a lot. And in the past few years, I have let myself enjoy doing the arts and crafts, even if I am quote, quote, bad at it, because it's fun to do. And I've tried to let go of the again, we're talking about arts and crafts, but this is the sort of perfectionist mindset I have. I've let go of the fact that it needs to be perfect, that it needs to look like the image that we were searching for. And it's nice to color. It's nice to paint.
Okay, girl, hold on one second. Eileen, I got to tell you something. You just defined the process of sobriety all in that little paragraph there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're not good at it. You could be better, but you just kind of defined the program to me and living the program, because it's okay for me now to kind of muddle through, not have it all together, kind of like the character in the play yesterday, my own journey. I don't have it all together, but I'm doing it. And I'm staying in practice. I think that was the other element I heard you say in there. You're staying in practice. And that is so important because I get rusty. I get rusty when I don't go to meetings for a while, or when I'm not working with others for a while, or when I'm not engaged in the fellowship for a while, or I'm not doing right. You stay in the practice, and I tell myself I am good at this. This is important. This is an important element of my life. Did you pick up on that, Glenn, during that little dissertation there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's as I reflect and as you were chatting, I was thinking about my sober path. It is not a path of perfection. I guess the only thing that I do perfectly is don't drink, right? And then once I put that guardrail out there, I mean, my fairway is so wide, and I mean, hey, some days I make progress. Some days, I just stand still, and some days, hey, I'm probably cranky and step back. It's not major progress every single day. So I mean, it's wishy-washy. It's not really defined, but hey, I do have a program, and I move that program. I work to move that program forward every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's progress, not perfection. And I think,
except when it comes to my grass, my grass, I'm in the perfect world, but beyond that, it's just progress. And I give myself a lot of latitude. And that's one of the things I love about the program.
Well, and that's, theater as an art form, you can't make it perfect because of the nature of the form. It is live. It is different. It is people living in the moment. It is, a stage manager is pressing buttons in that moment, trying to hit those cues in the moment, and things go wrong. Even in a rehearsal, because we ran the show twice yesterday, the earlier run, there was a bunch of dogs out in the alley behind the building barking, and you could hear it from inside the theater. And we were sort of the
sounds
actors
like my life
going.
Some days.
Yes. It's just there's a pack of wild dogs outside. And, film, you can try to perfect. You can try to get the take you want. You can make the actors do it 100 times. You can edit it. You can, CGI things. You can, do a AI, whatever you want to do. But theater as a form is all about hitting a moving target and knowing you're never going to hit that target. You can have a great show, everybody can hit their cues, but the idea that it's going to finally be perfect, that's not the point of theater. You keep doing the show because it's time to do the show. You don't do the show until it's perfect. You just continue to do it. And my favorite thing about theater too is watching actors have to like adjust to things. Like last night, an actor came in early and just had to make an adjustment in character. And it made sense in the moment, and the actor navigated through it. And I knew they entered early because I know the play, and I, told them when to enter and exit and things like that. But it's just wonderful to watch that kind of on the fly adjustment that actors have to make, and again that we have to make in life, and especially in recovery, that you have to pivot, you have to take what comes at and just take what is thrown at you.
Yeah, and that's one of the keys. So I think in early sobriety, I was going for perfection. I saw other people in the room. I'm like, well, I have to live to that standard. And there were probably so many times I came in early, I came in late, right? Using a stage reference. And I was so hard on myself. And I guess through the years, I've learned to give myself grace, lighten up, right? There's things that happen in life, and I clearly recognize, I'm aware today of how it would have thrown me off course, right? If I had come in early, I would have known nobody else would have known I came in early, but I would have known, and I would have just, lashed myself over that. And, that's one of the things I'm going to take out of this is, at times you come in early, at times you come in late, at times you miss your cue. It's okay. Just pick up and just keep going. Mm-hmm. Just don't miss your cue by drinking.
Yeah. And I also think too, especially when I work with kids, and if kids are worried about like the lines and everything like that, I'll be like, the audience doesn't know the script.
Right.
They don't know what's supposed to happen, so they don't know that you are messing up. Really, except if it's Shakespeare and people have Shakespeare memorized, right, or something like that, crazy audience members, but no one is sitting out there waiting for you to fail. And I think in the same way of people aren't thinking of you as much as you think they are, in terms of judgment. Sure, there probably are people who are waiting for one to fail in some way, or like there are people who are ready to boo you, right, or throw vegetables at you.
Yeah, isn't that the exception rather than the rule? I think you're right. Exactly. I think for the most part, I remember a real quick story. I was doing a thing for church, and they were looking for volunteers to help out in the kids wing, and they wanted. So somehow I got pigeonholed into this drama. I don't know why, but I was like David, and I had like 10 lines that I had to. And there was a Goliath, right? And Goliath had more lines than me, right? So I'm like, all right, good. I'm the under guy here. But anyway, the point was, I'm walking around my living room the night before, and I'm pacing back and forth, and I'm saying my lines. I'm like, I'm getting so frustrated because I can't remember what line 6 is, even though I know what line 5 is. And my wife looks at me, she goes, Michael, there are 3. My audience is 3 years old. They're not going to know if you got the line right, And I'm like, duh. And I think that's what you two were just talking about. I don't think these were David and Goliath biblical experts at 3. They just wanted to be entertained a little bit, engaged and educated just a little bit. Yeah. And that was my role.
Yeah. And again, I think in theater there are artists, and there are people that do strive for perfection, and it can be a taxing environment to create under the guise that it needs to be perfect or that it needs to be a certain way. But I think too, you obviously, like, you want to say all the lines, you want to hit your cues and things like that. But again, it's about living in the moment. It's about creating this story under these given circumstances. That's what people are there to see. They're not there to see you recite
No.
a script. They're not, they're there to see you make something. Yeah, it's an interesting metaphor of like being creative, especially in theater and the act of recovery. I think also in terms of the collaborative nature of theater is that, you can do, I mean, I've done solo shows, like these long form one woman shows where it really is just me behind it all. And I'm the only performer, I'm the only writer, I'm the only collaborator. And that's fun in a way. But what I really love is being able to be in a room with designers, actors, stage managers, producers, and for all, I mean, I think the team on this is 20, 30 people, and everybody contributing in their own
All
way.
working
Yeah,
together. Right.
exactly. And that
Good.
makes the product better because
I love
everyone
it.
has their ideas.
Hey, can we touch on one more quick thing before we have to
Yeah.
go? 26 years old. You come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you come into the program of recovery. Harder now today, now that you're a few years in, do you think it's harder for the 26-year-old to walk into a room today, or you think it's easier? Because you, again, tapping into your conversation, to me, that seems like you did a lot of solo work in the beginning days of your sobriety. Do you think it's harder or easier for a 26-year-old today to walk through the rooms?
I would say, I mean, and it's tough, but I think that at least in my community and my circles, people are talking about sobriety more. Um, and part of being open about it and part of putting it in my bio and those sort of things is so that people can see that we're out there, that we are legion, we are many, that alcoholics are everywhere and doing all sorts of things. Um, the disease is cunning, baffling, powerful. It doesn't care who you are, what you're doing. Um, my my experience was that I got to a point where I realized I could quit drinking now, or I could see if I would die. And that felt like the choice. And a lot of people said, maybe you're going to grow out of it. You're so young. You're going to, level out.
Sure.
Da, da, da. And I had people say, you could probably have a drink, now you've been sober, 2, 3 years, like you could have a glass of wine. And I was like, I could also run out onto the highway and I could probably not get hit by a car and killed. Maybe.
There's a strong possibility that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that in talking about it and putting it out into the universe in a public way, whether that's on social media, whether that's through my creative work, I feel like not that I've opened the door for other people necessarily, but I have like attracted other people who want to be loud about sobriety. And so I think I will say within like the Chicago creative community, whether it's storytelling or theater, I find that 10 years later, there is a lot more openness about sobriety and
That's
a lot more
encouraging.
options.
That's encouraging. That's
Yeah.
encouraging.
Nice.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know how that played out, and I would hope so. I mean, because look, AA is for grumpy old guys, right? I mean, that's what I heard. That's what I
Yeah.
see, and that's who
Yeah.
I am. That's who I am, right? And that's kind of what it became. That's the brand recognition it has out there. Not 26-year-old creative professionals, walking through the door, but they're welcome, and I'm seeing them succeed in the rooms that I attend. I'm seeing people come in, and it amazes me. I give them a lot of credit, but you're right. You made the choice at the right time. You could have played the game longer, and you could have died, and you didn't. And I'm really glad you didn't, because
10 years is great.
You put together quite a production. So just brag on the production for a minute to let people know, because this is going to be a bonus drop, and we're going to drop it. So just in case people hear this and they're in the Chicago area or want to hop on a cheap Allegiant flight and fly in to see it, it's well worth it. What brag on the show for a minute. How can they find out about it? Where, when, how?
Yeah, so we had our first preview last night. You were part of our first audience, which was very exciting. And it's called Household Spirits by Mia McCullough. It's playing at theaterwit, theaterwit.org. And previews are this weekend, October 6th through 8th. And then next weekend we run through November 11th. So it's just a little over a month, a chance for people to see it.
Get down there and see it if you can, and we'll throw those links in the resource room.
And that's Chicago proper, Mikey.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Chicago proper.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really, like I said, I really thank you. I thank you for positioning an alcoholic. I related a lot to Philip, the character, and I related to his struggle, and I related to, it was relatable for me. And then the rest of it, I just bought into the whole rest of the production, because I can relate so much to him and his quest to be sober, and I'm glad to see that integrated into drama, because you don't get that on Friends or Cheers or Cheers. That's an old one. Friends or
they call it dark comedy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Eileen, great to meet you, and congrats on 10 years. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
We'll go back and get a little rest before production time today.
I know, totally.
Yeah, I may just take a nap. Yeah, we'll see.
Go back to bed or go to bed.
Stealing a siesta. Have a great day, Eileen.
All right, thanks, Eileen.
See you next week.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.